Over the last 72 hours, the world watched a titanic clash unfold between Elon Musk and former President Donald Trump, one that threatens billions in contracts, jeopardizes America's space program, and rattles electric vehicle markets. Here's everything you need to know, told in a single uninterrupted narrative. It all started on June 5th, late at night, when Congress quietly passed a Republican spending bill. Buried within its pages was a complete repeal of federal electric vehicle tax credits worth up to $7,500 for every Tesla purchased. Elon Musk, whose companies have long depended on both government subsidies and federal contracts, saw red. Within minutes, he took to X to blast lawmakers for sneaking the rollback past the public. He called it economic malpractice and warned that it would harm Tesla buyers and American innovation. By the early hours of June 6, the feud escalated dramatically. Former President Donald Trump responded with a video address. "Elon Musk has gone too far," he declared. "If he refuses to support this bill, I will pull every federal contract for SpaceX. No more NASA missions. No more Starlink assistance for our troops." And just like that, nearly $22 billion of SpaceX business hung in the balance. Debt financing talks for a massive $10 billion funding round were reportedly stalled within hours. Musk didn't flinch. Later that same day, he announced on X that if NASA canceled SpaceX contracts, the company would immediately retire its Dragon spacecraft. Remember, Dragon is the only U.S. vehicle currently certified to ferry astronauts and cargo to the International Space Station, since Boeing's Starliner remains grounded after repeated test failures. Without Dragon, NASA would have to buy seats on Russia's Soyuz capsule at roughly $80 million per astronaut. In practical terms, that means NASA will be paying more than double per person compared to flying on Dragon. Suddenly, this wasn't just a spat between two powerful men. It became a national security and geopolitical crisis resting on a single spacecraft. By June 7th, the fallout widened. NASA quietly opened emergency talks to secure additional Soyuz seats in case Dragon was retired. Internally, agency officials worried about potential gaps in the ISS crew rotation schedule and a delay of critical scientific experiments. Meanwhile, Tesla shares plunged 7% intraday on June 6 as investors panicked over the loss of federal credits and a potential hit to sales. Bond investors, too, adjusted their expectations. SpaceX's existing debt spread widened by 50 basis points, signaling higher borrowing costs and increased risk. In boardrooms and trading desks alike, analysts began revising revenue forecasts. Tesla's projected growth for the rest of 2025 was cut by 5 to 10%, and SpaceX's valuation in late-stage funding talks was downgraded until clarity emerged. Political pressure mounted on June 7th as senators scheduled a hearing for June 10th to grill Tesla's CFO and SpaceX's COO. Lawmakers promised to ask tough questions. How can NASA continue crew rotations without Dragon? Will Congress reverse course on EV credits? Should federal contracts be used as a political cudgel? At the same time, social media protests flared up outside Tesla showrooms, and online petitions calling for divestment from Tesla saw triple-digit percentage growth in signatures. Elon Musk also stepped down from an advisory role in the White House's Department of Government Efficiency, hinting that the feud had soured any hope of cooperation. Amid all this turbulence, the question on everyone's mind was simple: who blinks first? For Musk, losing NASA's Commercial Crew Program funding, an investment of $1.6 billion back in 2014, would be a devastating blow to SpaceX's long-term plans for Starship and lunar exploration. For Trump, standing firm on rolling back EV credits was a badge of honor with his base, but risking America's leadership in low Earth orbit could be a political liability. Let's break down why Dragon matters so much. Since its first crewed flight in 2020, Dragon has flown astronauts and cargo regularly. It costs around $55 million per mission to send a crew, and roughly $51 million for payload only. Meanwhile, Soyuz costs about $80 million per seat. If Dragon retires, NASA would spend roughly $160 million to send a crew of 2, or over $240 million for 3. Multiply that by multiple rotations each year, and we're talking hundreds of millions in additional expenses, all financed by American taxpayers. Suddenly, a political tweet becomes a budgetary crisis for the world's leading space agency. On the electric vehicle front, Tesla sold over 200,000 cars in Q1 of 2025, and analysts have projected around 20% growth through the end of the year. Without the $7,500 credit, that growth slows. Buyers face an immediate 10% hike in out-of-pocket cost. Margins, already squeezed by rising raw material prices, could tighten by up to 200 basis points. Tesla's profitability for 2025 risks slipping below 6%. Bottom line growth virtually flat compared to 2024. But it's not just Musk on the line. The entire U.S.-based ecosystem braces for ripple effects. Hundreds of small suppliers produce components for Dragon, avionics, life support pumps, heat shields. A sudden contract cancellation means layoffs, canceled orders, and cash flow crises for companies that lack diversified revenues. Defense contractors like Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin stand to pick up some of the slack if NASA pivots, but they, too, face long lead times and certification hurdles. The Artemis lunar program, which relies on Starship docking at Gateway, may slip by 6 months or more, pushing back planned lunar landings past 2026. On June 8, SpaceX leadership held an all-hands meeting. Sources say Musk addressed employees in Shadow, an AI avatar speaking with his exact voice pattern, reassuring them that contingencies are in place. He hinted at accelerating Starship development to create an alternative crew capsule, but engineers acknowledge that redesigning and certifying a new spacecraft takes years, not months. By the end of the day, rumors surfaced that Musk was in behind-the-scenes discussions with moderate Republicans to carve out a special exemption for SpaceX contracts, a potential lifeline if public pressure grew strong enough. Now, as we edge toward the June 10th hearing, every tweet, every news leak, and every internal memo will shape the outcome. Will Congress quietly restore some or all of the EV tax credits before the vote? Will the hearing expose GOP divisions, forcing a last-minute compromise? Or will Trump double down, forcing NASA to shell out staggering sums to Roscosmos and cede orbital leadership? One thing is certain, this isn't just a battle of egos. It's a test of how much political risk private companies can absorb when they become too entwined with federal policy. For investors, the message is clear: diversify. If you have significant exposure to Tesla, consider that policy shift can wipe out 10 to 15% of expected profits almost overnight. If you're tracking SpaceX equity or debt, understand that what happens in Washington isn't kept in Washington. It reverberates through the financial markets globally. And for space enthusiasts and STEM advocates, this conflict is a wake-up call. American leadership in space rests on fragile agreements that can be upended by a single tweet or a last-minute legislative change. As we wrap up this 72-hour saga, keep your eyes peeled on 3 critical data points. 1. The wording of any amendments introduced after the June 10th hearing. 2. Any official statement from NASA on whether it has secured interim Soyuz seats. And 3. Tesla stock performance ahead of its Q2 earnings report on July 1st. Each will tell us whether Musk's gamble pays off or if Trump's threat reshapes the space and EV industry for years to come. That's a story in a single narrative, powered by facts, numbers, and the kind of high-stakes drama that touches everyone, from the aerospace engineer at SpaceX to the commuter driving a Model 3. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit subscribe, tap the notification bell, and stay tuned. In the coming days, we'll continue to update you on every twist, every new tweet, and every congressional hearing. Until then, keep watching the skies and your portfolio.